So hello, happy August 4th for all of us who are here live time, or later than that for people who might catch this recording later. We're going to start with the Sufi invocation, and I'll put everything that I lead or that Rahima leads, I'll put in the chat window for you so you can say it along with us if you like. And this is the opening prayer that Pir-o-Murshid Inayat offered at the beginning of universal worship services, and at the beginning and throughout every moment of existence. So please join me in this invocation if you like. Towards the One, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, the only being, united with all the illuminated souls who form the embodiment of the Master, the Spirit of guidance. Amen. So welcome to our Way of the Cherag meeting. We've been holding these as quarterly gatherings. That's an opportunity for any of the ordained Cherags and Sirajas in Sarati Inayat to share teachings and practices, to have an opportunity to co-create together and to offer some of our inspirations and joys on the path of Cheragging to anyone who would like to show up for these things. It's so nice to see so many of you with us today. Today, I will be sharing some things, and Rahima as well. And on the Zoom right now, you can see Malik and Raqiba that will also be offering things. I know I'll do it for you, Raqiba, if you like. All right, there you go. Okay, so this path of the Cherag is a path of Sufi ministry formally, but it is also a path of just simply sharing light and sharing the message of unity, of friendship, of tolerance, of understanding, and celebrating the reality and the wisdom of the divine being as it shines through all of the faith traditions and spiritual paths that support humanity in our existence and evolution. So all of the dear friends that are contributing to this meeting today have gone through training processes to be ordained, to be empowered and blessed to function in this particular tradition of Sufi ministry. And one of the ways that I feel spiritually nourished, and many of us do, is through the prayers and teachings of Pir-o-Murshid Inayat, who is on the altar this morning with us over here. His beautiful countenance is shining forth as a blessing and inspiration, and also as a supervision. I like to have him looking over my shoulder going like, how are you doing over there? So my beautiful teacher, who I love, Ramat, recently said something about being at the Dargah of Pir-o-Murshid Inayat and having that opportunity to look to Murshid and say, how am I doing, boss? How am I doing, boss? That not because there's any kind of demand or expectation, but because we all want to be aspiring to do the best that we can to serve the message of harmony, of love, and beauty in the world. So I'd like to invite you to join me in the prayer psalm this morning as a way of connecting in with the message, the inspiration of Pir-o-Murshid Inayat, and also with each other and with our relationship with the divine and with our own sense of purpose in the world. So this is one of the prayers that Murshid offered as a morning practice, and the words are in the chat window for you, and you're welcome to say this with us if you like. And if you are not familiar with it and would like to just take this opportunity to just notice how it feels for you and see what happens in your own heart and your own spirit as you hear these words and consider these ideas, you're welcome to do that as well. There are a lot of movements that Murshid offered along with this prayer, and Rahima and I will probably do some of them as we're going. I didn't plan on that, but that just kind of happens sometimes. Okay, the prayer psalm. Praise be to thee, most supreme God, omnipotent, omnipresent, all-pervading, the only being. Take us in thy parental arms. Raise us from the denseness of the earth. Thy beauty do we worship. To thee do we give willing surrender. Most merciful and compassionate God, the idealized Lord of the whole humanity, thee only do we worship, and towards thee alone we aspire. Open our hearts towards thy beauty, illuminate our souls with divine light. O thou, the perfection of love, harmony, and beauty, all-powerful creator, sustainer, judge, and forgiver of our shortcomings, Lord God of the East and of the West, of the worlds above and below, and of the seen and unseen beings. Pour upon us thy love and thy light. Give sustenance to our bodies, hearts, and souls. Use us for the purpose that thy wisdom chooseth, and guide us on the path of thine own goodness. Draw us closer to thee every moment of our life, until in us be reflected thy grace, thy glory, thy wisdom, thy joy, and thy peace. Amen. Thank you, friends, and I'm so pleased to invite Malik to be our first Cherag presenter today. Malik.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to have you here. Now, I have a lot to share in 15 short minutes, so I might speak a little quickly. Thankfully, I've had my cup of coffee. Hope you have too. Let's go. So I'm going to ask you to journey with me this morning. Let's put on our imagination caps and travel back to the mid-1800s. 1800s Russia, to be exact. Now, imagine you're homeless, or perhaps more accurately, the whole world is your home. You are a wanderer, a seeker, some might call you a pilgrim. What brought you to this? Through what many might call misfortune. See, as a child, your hand became crippled, limiting your ability to work. As an adult, you inherit the family home, only to see it burned down by your jealous brother, the same person who crippled your hand. Then your spouse, your only companion, becomes ill and dies. Now, losing everything could easily make a person curse God. But you take the path of Job, and in your wisdom, understand that God is all you have left. This is the story of The Way of the Pilgrim, a book I found fascinating and has inspired my sharing this morning. This manuscript dates to the 1800s and is believed to be the true first-hand account of an Orthodox Christian wandering ascetic. And it begins like this. By the grace of God, I am a Christian. By my deeds, a great sinner. And by my calling, a homeless wanderer of humblest origin, roaming from place to place. My possessions consist of a knapsack with dry crusts of bread on my back, and in my bosom, the Holy Bible. That is all. On the 24th Sunday after Pentecost, I came to church to attend the liturgy and entered just as the epistle was being read. The reading was from Paul's first letter to the Thessalonians, which says in part, "Pray constantly." These words made a deep impression on me, and I started thinking of how it could be possible for a man to pray without ceasing when the practical necessities of life demand so much attention. I checked my Bible and saw with my own eyes exactly what I had heard, that it is necessary to pray continuously, to pray in the Spirit in every possible occasion, in every place lift your hands reverently in prayer. I thought and thought about these words, but no understanding came to me. What do you make of the instruction to pray constantly? Is it possible? What is even meant by prayer? Our pilgrim is equally confused. What shall I do? I thought. Where can I find a person who will explain this mystery to me? I will go to the various churches where there are good preachers, and perhaps I will obtain an explanation from them. And so I went. I heard many good homilies on prayer, but they were all instructions about prayer in general. What is prayer, the necessity of prayer, the fruits of prayer, but no one spoke of the way to succeed in prayer. I did hear a sermon on interior prayer and ceaseless prayer, but nothing about attaining that form of prayer. Inasmuch as listening to these public sermons had not given me any satisfaction, I stopped attending them and decided, with the grace of God, to look for an experienced and learned person who would satisfy my ardent desire and explain ceaseless prayer to me. So our pilgrim travels far, many, many miles, and for a long time, and he seeks a spiritual teacher who can teach ceaseless interior prayer. In one village, he hears of a nobleman who takes his salvation seriously. So our pilgrim tracks down this landowner and asks how to pray constantly. The gentleman was silent for a moment. Then he looked at me intently and said, "Ceaseless prayer is a continuous aspiration and a yearning of the spirit of man toward God. To succeed in this sweet exercise, it is necessary to ask God frequently that he teach you how to pray continuously. Pray often and fervently, and prayer itself will reveal this mystery to you. But it takes time." Having said this, he ordered the servants to give me food. He gave me some money for the road and dismissed me. But he did not explain ceaseless prayer. Well, that didn't work. So again, our pilgrim travels for very long until he comes to a monastery. I heard that the superior of the monastery was a kind, devout, and hospitable to strangers. I went to him. He received me warmly and offered me some refreshments. "Reverend Father," I said, "I do not need refreshments, but I would like you to give me spiritual advice. I would like to know how to work out my salvation." "Work out your salvation? Well, keep the commandments and pray to God, and you will be saved." "I heard it is necessary to pray without ceasing, but I do not know how to pray without interruption, and I cannot even understand what is meant by ceaseless prayer. Please explain this to me, dear Father." Father Superior says a lot of words, offers some book recommendations, but doesn't explain. And so Pilgrim presses him further. "Please explain to me how the mind can always be set on God, not be distracted, but continually praying." Father says, "This is exceptionally difficult to understand unless God himself reveals it." And the Father Superior did not explain. Strike two. It's beginning to seem like even devout followers of Christ do not know the secret of continuous prayer. As you can imagine, our pilgrim is now feeling rather dejected, but in faith he continues searching, and one day, as he's walking, a fellow traveler catches up to him. It's a monk on the way to a hermitage, and instantly they form a bond. When the time is ripe, this elder teaches our pilgrim the secret of continuous prayer. And now I'm going to share it with you. Are you ready? To think, our pilgrim had to wander the steppes of Russia for years before finding this teaching, and you get to receive it from the comfort of your Zoom screen. What times we live, huh? All right, this is the beginning technique of the Jesus prayer. Sit alone and in silence. Bow your head and close your eyes. Relax your breathing, and with your imagination, look into your heart. Direct your thoughts from your head into your heart. While inhaling, say, "Lord Jesus Christ, have mercy on me." either softly with your lips or in your mind. Endeavor to fight distractions, but be patient and peaceful, and repeat this process frequently. Simple, right? You don't need to be a scholar or a mystic to follow these instructions. It's so simple, anyone can do it. But simple doesn't mean easy, does it? Our pilgrim finds a place to stay near the hermitage and begins to practice. For a week, I followed the instructions of the elder and studied ceaseless prayer alone in the vegetable garden. And for a while, I managed. Then a great burden came upon me. Laziness, boredom, drowsiness, and a cloud of disturbing thoughts seemed to overwhelm me. Relatable, yeah? In my sorrow, I went to see the elder and explained my situation to him. So he goes to the elder, and the elder advises him to vocalize the Jesus prayer, to say it out loud, and to do 3,000 repetitions each day. I received this instruction joyfully, returned to my place, and began faithfully and accurately as possible to carry out the directive of the elder. For 2 days it was somewhat difficult. Then it became so easy and pleasant that when I was not saying the prayer, a need arose within me to say it, and I began to say it then with much greater ease than I experienced in the beginning. I reported this to the elder, and he suggested that I recite the prayer 6,000 times each day. He said, "Be at peace and faithfully recite the assigned number of prayers. God will reward your effort." So the pilgrim goes and he does this. And when he reports this success to the elder, he instructs him to say the prayer 12,000 times each day. When our pilgrim succeeds with 12,000 repetitions each day, he testifies that it actually becomes quite easy, and that while joyfully and lovingly calling on the name of Jesus, he's in an otherworldly state of bliss. When the elder hears of this, he says, "Praise be to God that you have both a longing for the prayer and the recitation of it comes easily. This is a natural result of discipline and frequent practice. The revelation of this secret prayer is a foretaste of heavenly bliss while the soul is still here on earth. Only the simple and loving hearts who earnestly seek the Lord are found worthy of this." Then the elder gives his final instruction. "Now you may recite the prayer as many times as you wish. Call on the name of Jesus all your waking moments, without counting, and humbly resign yourself to God's will, expecting help from him. I believe that he will direct your path and not forsake you." Thus concludes only the first chapter of this enlightening adventure. Now you might say, "Malik, I'm not an Eastern Orthodox Christian. I don't have a resonant relationship with Jesus. What does this have to do with me?" As Sufis, we have the privilege of learning from any religious or spiritual tradition which calls to us. And for those of us who have studied many paths, it's common to see similar themes and practices. Now, if the Jesus prayer isn't for you, very well. But recognize that it's essentially a mantra, or what the Sufis call wazifa. Did you know that Hazrat Inayat Khan assigned his closest students wazifa repetitions in the thousands? Now, while wazifas can be used to achieve any purpose you wish, Inayat Khan emphasized the practice of dhikr, or remembrance. Dhikr often involves the repetition of divine names or phrases to maintain a constant awareness of the divine presence. Sounds pretty great, right? So why is it so hard? To me, 99 repetitions feels like a chore. Never mind 999. I think the reason it's so difficult is the same reason it's so effective. It's because it lays the ego down. It lays low the false self. It's funny, when I consider doing wazifas, I suddenly think of about 100,000 other things I'd rather be doing. And at least half of them are one of the 7 deadly sins. But a big theme in this book is subduing the passions, crucifying the lusts of the flesh, purifying the soul from passion. Why would I want to be rid of my passions? I'm very attached to my passions, thank you very much. And everything in our culture tells us to revere passion. Be passionate. Follow your passion. Western culture is obsessed with passion. It's like that strange carnival island in Pinocchio where every possible vice is offered and celebrated, especially if you have money. If I only had enough money, then I could really follow my passions. Here's something that blew my mind. The word passion has its roots in the Latin word passio, which means suffering or enduring. Is it possible that practices like the Jesus Prayer or remembrance wazifas will slowly erode our passion? Yes. Is that a bad thing? No. Just as the pilgrim develops the practice of unceasing prayer, we too can maintain continuous remembrance of the One through the practice of wazifas. Hazrat Inayat Khan teaches that the only sin is the breath that escapes in forgetfulness, and the only virtue is the breath that is breathed in awareness of the unity of being. By repeating wazifas, we align each breath with this awareness, fostering a state of constant presence and connection with the divine. Now, if you're not quite done enduring your passions, and the ideal of constant presence feels unattainable, then start small. A useful practice is to repeat La ilaha illallah while walking or driving. It's at those times when the mind wanders off in trivial directions, so why not use that opportunity to connect with Spirit? La ilaha on the out-breath, illallah on the in-breath. All is God. God is all. Thank you for your attention. I'll leave you with this poem by Hafiz. Now, the sky drum plays, all by itself in my head, singing all day long. Allah, Allah, Allah.
Oh my gosh, Malik, that's so fantastic in every possible way. Thank you so much. You are an inspiration. I want y'all to know that if you have noticed that you heard all of Malik's brilliant instructions and wisdom teachings about overcoming and mitigating passions, and at the same time you have your passions awakened by listening to Malik, that irony is not lost on me either. So thank you, Malik. Next we'll come over here to Rahima.
Thank you. Good morning, afternoon, dear friends. I just have to mention just real quick that I was really enjoying little bees coming into our sunflowers here while Malik was speaking, and it's so sweet to be out here today and share with you. It's the new moon, or at least it was at 5 a.m. this morning. So we're speaking about the emptying the self and intuition and what that moon energy can bring for us. And I have a little, very short reading from Inayat from the Gayan, the chapter on Tanas, which is the soul speaking with nature. Full moon, where will you be going from here? Into retreat. And why do you take a retreat from fullness? To make myself an empty vessel in order to be filled again. I'm going to read that again. Full moon, where will you be going from here? Into a retreat. Why do you take a retreat after fullness? To make myself an empty vessel in order to be filled again. So, as Malik was just mentioning, the emptying of the self and being filled again, that La ilaha, breathing out, ilallah, being filled with God. And in my practice, I find that body movement is helpful in these practices, and often the idea of prostration, of putting the head below the heart. Again, Malik was mentioning bringing the head into the heart, and really that heart focus is such an important part of this Sufi path. Often it's called the path of the heart. And so getting that head, the ego, the passions, the busy thoughts below, onto the earth, and that having that heart above the head is one way we can really bring this into practice of really emptying the vessel so that we're ready to come to standing and be filled with God, so that God can use us for her purpose. And maybe because it's Sunday that we're speaking so much about Jesus, but I am also going to bring us into a practice of just the first 3 lines of the Aramaic Lord's Prayer. So this is the prayer of Jesus, but offered in the language that Jesus spoke, which is Aramaic. So Sára's putting it in the chat window for you so you can see the close to the pronunciation of how these words are spoken. So Avun Dabashmaya Nit Kaddish Shamok Te Te Malkutach. So Avun Dabashmaya, traditionally in English, what we've heard as Our Father who art in heaven. But there can be a much more expansive way of looking at these words. Avun, that middle syllable v, is very similar to the Bismillah, that beginning point. Everything begins with God. And so Avun is attuning to that creator, creation, vibration, to divine Avun. And Dabashmaya is the name that is all of creation. And Bashmaya I like to think of as how we're actually connecting to the world with each other, with each name, how that vibration comes into form. So we begin with attuning ourselves to that, Avun Bashmaya. And I'm going to bring some movements and a practice into this as soon as after I'm done explaining each of the lines and a basic attunement to what they mean. So Nikadish Shamak, Net Kaddish. So Kaddish is the word for holy or sacred. Kadosh in Hebrew, very similar word. And Kudus in Arabic. So in Aramaic it's Kaddish. So Net Kaddish Shamak. We bring ourselves into this holy space, preparing the ground for bringing ourselves into that prostration and that bowing of emptying ourselves. So Net Kaddish Shamak. And you hear that Shema word again that you heard in Bashmaya. Again, that name, that vibration. And then Te Te Malkutach. Te Te Malkutach. Malkutah or Malik in Arabic is the king, the sovereign, the Sadi calls it the I can power of the cosmos. So when we say Te Te Malkutach, we're coming into standing, where it's that point where we've emptied ourselves so that we can then become full again, full of that vibration, that love, so that we can bring forth our gifts into the world and our service. So we'll do this practice. I'm not going to do a full prostration, but certainly a bowing. Anytime we bow our heads, it's that vibration of bringing emptying the self, emptying the vessel, as Inayat Khan was speaking of with the moon. So for Avun Bashmaya, we're doing that gesture of opening ourselves, listening to the source, Avun Bashmaya. And then for Net Kaddish Shamak, we'll bow forward and emptying ourselves, looking at that holy space, that ground before us, maybe even and visualizing the garden before you, Net Kaddish Shamak. And then coming to standing or sitting up straight of Te Te Malkutach, and feeling that power of the divine filling you, giving you the strength to go forth and bring the blessings into the world, your fruit, your plants. Avun Bashmaya, Net Kaddish Shamach, Te Te Malkutach, 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 Avun Bashmaya, Net Kaddish Shamach, Te Te Malkutach. Two more times. Avun Bashmaya, Net Kaddish Shamach, Te Te Malkutach, Avun Bashmaya, Net Kaddish Shamach, Te Te Malkutach. share with you also another poem from Inayat that we'll be singing as well. And it again has that energy of emptying ourselves to become that full vessel. So I'm going to just read it for you, the original poem, and then Sára will be putting in the chat window the words we'll be singing, which is basically the same thing with just a few words different. Let thy wish become my desire. Let thy will become my deed. Let thy word become my speech, beloved, and thy love my creed. Let my plant bring forth thy flowers. Let my fruits produce thy seed. Let my heart become thy lute, beloved, and my body thy flute of reed. You see this imagery often in Sufi stories of the empty reed becoming the flute that God is playing, that we are that reed, that empty vessel that God is playing and making the beautiful music in the world. So I like how this poem, the first 4 lines are thy wish and thy will, thy word becoming my desire, and then the last 4 lines are my plant or thy flowers. So he switches it. So to me it feels like that beginning point is more of that emptying of thy wish, let thy wish become my desire, and then that coming to stand in that where we are bringing forth God's flowers. So my plant bringing forth thy, and my body is thy reed. So I'll sing this a few times and tuning to that emptying and filling with the beloved. Let thy wish become my desire, thy will my deed. Let thy words become my speech, thy love my creed. Let my plant bring forth thy flower, my fruit, my seed. Let my heart become thy lute, and my body thy reed. Let thy wish become my desire, thy will my deed. Let thy words become my speech, thy love my creed. Let my plant bring forth thy flower, thy fruit, thy seed. Let my heart become thy lute, and my body thy reed. Let thy wish become my desire, thy will my deed. Let thy words become my speech, thy love my creed. Let my plant bring forth thy flower, my fruit, thy seed. Let my heart become thy lute, and my body thy reed. Let thy wish become my desire, thy will my deed. Let thy words become my speech, thy love my creed. Let my plant bring forth thy thy seed. Let my heart become thy lute, and my body thy reed. Let thy wish become my desire, thy will my deed. Let thy words become my speech, thy love my creed. Let my plant bring forth thy flower, my fruit, thy seed. Let my heart become thy lute, and my body thy reed. Once more. Let thy wish become my desire, thy will my deed. Let thy words become my speech, thy love my creed. Let my plant bring forth thy flower, thy fruit, thy seed. Let my heart become thy lute, and my body thy reed. Full moon, where will you go from here? Into a retreat. Why do you take a retreat from fullness? To make myself an empty vessel in order to be filled again.
Thank you, Rahima. There are some very rare beings that can inspire us to just want to soften every aspect of ourselves, to make us really want to be humble and surrendered. It's a rare quality, and Rahima carries it so beautifully. Thank you. Okay, Raqiba, we look forward to hearing from you next.
Well, hello, friends. I'm so happy to be here. So, we've got this new moon in Leo, as Rahima was saying, that was sort of official early this morning. And our themes for today are sort of this inspiration of intuition and guidance through the dark, how we empty our vessel to receive. And so, as I was thinking and preparing for this circle, this gathering, I was getting curious about what exactly is our intuition and the relationship that we have with it, the logistics sort of how we get to our intuition. And I like this phrasing, this terminology of our intuition being our sixth sense, and sort of thinking about it in the context of our other senses and our relationship. You know, how do I taste? How do I see? How do I touch? How do I smell? And so on and so forth. And sort of what my actual relationship is then with my intuition. And there's so many ways that we develop this relationship, and we all have our own ways, right? We can have a gut feeling, we can feel it, we can sort of sense it in our physical body. We may have visions or things come to us in our dreams. We can use different tools, like the tarot or oracle cards or pendulum, automatic writing or channeling. sort of giving ourselves, as both Malik and Rahima have spoken to, that space to empty ourselves and then to open up to receive. And I'm just curious if everybody just sort of internally like wants to take a moment to consider your own connection to your intuition and what this personal relationship is. I think some of us are maybe really connected to our intuition. Like on a daily basis, we get intuitive hits or instincts and we listen and we respond accordingly. Maybe others of us are, feel more disconnected from our intuitive body or don't trust it. I think this is a fun exercise to go through our day and to notice when we get messages or insights, and then to see how we respond. Do we listen to it and go with it, or do we maybe push it away or reject it? Especially, in my opinion, we have this sort of like dominant paradigm that really values the rational mind. And so sometimes like we have to kind of do our own work of connecting more deeply with our intuitive body and almost going against the grain because of the ways that we've been conditioned or imprinted. And I will say from experience, I've had several times where I didn't listen to that intuitive voice, and it pretty much never works out. And so that made me start pondering, like, what is our intuition up to? What does our intuitive body want for us? And I feel like it's this very protective energy. It wants to help me. It wants to keep me safe. It wants to keep me aligned. I feel like our intuitive body and God are sort of in cahoots, working together to keep us in a place that feels protected and well-nourished and supported. And of course, as Sufis, so I am a Cherag, but I'm also a very witchy woman. So I sort of weave together paganism, Sufism, and I'm a yogini. So these are the three sort of main paths that I walk. Of course, I'm an interfaith minister, so I have a respect and love for the world's faith traditions. And during the new moon, for me, this is a very witchy time. I love kind of nerding out on the cosmic dance that the sun and the moon do through the sky. And so I think of the new moon as this time when the sun is sort of like wrapping around the moon. And we don't have a moon in the sky right now because she's with the sun. And he just like, burns her out because he's so bright. And from a witchy perspective, this is a time of going inward. This is a time of listening to our intuitive body. This is a time every month where the veils are the thinnest, so to speak. We get this sort of opportunity then to close out the last cycle and to begin a new cycle. And I find like the last 3 days and, that there is this sort of like desire to kind of wrap up or finish up any little like mundane things that may be like lying around. For example, I rescued this mint that a neighbor of mine was like cultivating a bunch of mint out of her garden because it does take over. But I wanted to save it. And it's like been sitting in a bucket for like 3 weeks on my porch. And I just barely put it into earth like last night. And it's like these little things like that, like, even like clearing, like if you want, like you might find like, I want to do my laundry or I want to clean the bathroom. And there's sort of like this clearing energy that happens to prepare for the next cycle. Now, of course, we're Sufis, so like Malik and Rahima talked about, we do zikr and we recite sacred phrases and the 99 names of God in order to polish our heart and to empty ourselves, to be filled up. Also, like Hafez, I actually learned that we've been pronouncing Hafez's name wrong. So I've always said Hafiz as well, but I just learned recently that it's actually Hafez. Sorry, that's my dog. So now he would, just one sec. Suki, come on. So, Hafez was this mystical Sufi poet. And of course, he was so enamored with poetry and words and the way that our words can really speak to our heart and open us up. So this is a beautiful time during the new moon for us to connect with words and our intentions and sort of seeding intentions into the next cycle. And one of the things that I like to do on the new moon is to get into my physical body. So I'll like maybe set a timer and do like 10 to 15 minutes of just sort of free flow, kind of ecstatic dance, embodied movement in my kitchen. Usually my kitchen becomes my like temple in my home. So I don't know if everybody else does that, but it's like the perfect place for a temple because it's like a nice floor and you can clean it real quick and light candles and it's like space. You can even lay down a yoga mat. So I'll kind of do my kitchen temple and then I sit and I give myself time to just let my physical body reveal insights to me. And it's through that connection to the sensations in my physical body that I begin to sort of vision and create the intention for this moon. And I find that our bodies are one of our greatest intuitive instruments, always revealing information to us, whether we want to listen or not. And that there's this sort of like built-in wisdom in our bodies. And through the new moon, we can find sort of like support through the cosmos to create the intention then that is going to carry us through. So today is the new moon in Leo. Now, from an astrological perspective, we seed these intentions in the new moon, and then they become manifest in the full moon in Leo, which will be in 6 months. So it kind of gives us time, right? And personally, I am a total astrology nerd, so I don't know if there's any other astrology nerds out there. But I like to watch the moon transit through my chart, and it builds and it builds, and it goes through house and, each successive house. And it kind of gives me a lens of where I'm seeding that intention for this cycle. So that's just sort of a prompt. If anybody else wants to look at their chart, you can see where the sun and the moon are joining, are kissing, are sort of making love today. Like, I love thinking of them like that too, these cosmic beings, these planetary dignitaries. Technically, the moon is not considered a planetary dignitary, but I consider her to be so because the moon is amazing. Let's see. So we've got just a few more minutes. And I was thinking we could do a little wazifa with Ya Batin. So I've got my tasbih here. Instead of taking a full trip around the tasbih, let's just do 33 repetitions, and we'll invoke God as the hidden, as the secret, as the concealed, and sort of think about, this quality of the shroud of the sun covering up the moon, really preparing her. And she's going to start pulling away, being filled up. Yeah, I'll go from there. So if you'd like to close your eyes, we will recite Ya Batin 33 times, and I'll let you know. Here we go. Ya Batin, 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 Ya Batin. All right, y'all. Well, I invite everyone to have a beautiful new moon in Leo, and to perhaps notice today if your intuitive body is sort of sending you messages and how you respond to them. Thank you.
Oh my good golly goddess. Raqiba, you just inspire and delight every time. I love that you're including so much of the deep listening and the wisdom of the body at the same time. Oh, so much beauty. Of course. Okay, so wonderful friends. We're going to take a little bit of time to hear from all of you that are on the Zoom right now. You don't have to say anything if you don't want to. And after I give a couple invitation instructions, I'll pause the recording so you don't have to worry about that at all. And I come back to this a lot from the addresses to Cherags. That was a set of teachings, of classes, of lectures, instruction that Murshid gave to the Cherags, the ministers, while he was still alive and shaping how the Sufi message could be conveyed. There was something that he said that I completely loved, which was, when there is, this is a paraphrase, it's not an exact quote, when there is a spiritual need in a community, the Cherag is available to provide the resource needed to meet that need. And if there is no Cherag in your area, you do it. That is, if there isn't the ordained minister who has the training and the preparation, but there is a need that is longing to be filled, anybody can do that. And it is better for whoever it is that has the inspiration and the awareness of the need and is pulled to offer what they can, then it is their job to do it, whether there's an official training and preparation or not. So, so that applies to every single one of you on this Zoom. I know a lot of you are already Cherags or are in training to be Cherags, and uh, every single human being has the capacity to provide nourishment, inspiration, comfort, light, to be the vehicle for the divine light in every moment of life. So there are three primary uh, themes, I would say, that have been indicated by the Cherags that you have heard from so far today, and that are the essence of the new moon energy. That includes the emptying out, which is the letting go of whatever it was that was in the field, whatever qualities, experiences, energies are not useful, are not necessary, or that we just want to get some space from, so that we can move into the second theme, which is a theme of stillness, of actually being empty, of actually waiting and pausing and resting. We forget that part so much that we go from the clearing out to the calling in, but we miss the opportunity of that pause that is the delicious moment of repose, of respite. So that pause is at the center. And then from the pause, there comes a really sincere listening of an asking for guidance, for instruction, for what is it that can be welcomed in a natural, beautiful alignment with divine will. So those are the three qualities. It doesn't start moving forward into action yet. You know, that comes after the new moon. That comes in the days following the new moon. And we're not there yet. So in this moment, as soon as I pause the recording, I would like to invite any and all of you that are on this call right now, if you have any experiences that you're particularly attuned to in your own felt reality, in your own heart, in your own awareness of what is it that is being emptied out, what is the delicious delight of the pause, of the rest, of the experiencing emptiness as a gift in itself. And what are the ways that you open yourself to hear and to receive the guidance, the connection, the instruction, the wisdom that's available to you when you have cleared out what is distracting and when you have taken the moment to rest and wait. Oh, such rich, beautiful, personal sharings during our little paused time of conversation. And what a blessing to hear all of the different ways that these same themes manifest and, as I like to say, womanifest in each of our lives and our experience and our work and our intentions, our sincerity, and our desire to really recognize what is ours to experience and give in this lifetime. So thank you for your sharings, friends. So I brought way too much material for you right now. I'm going to start with a reading from Pir-o-Murshid Inayat that is also from the Addresses to Cherags. And thank you, Rowana, and I'll send you a recording when we have it ready to post. So from the Addresses to Cherags, that are all of these instructions that Murshid gave to people who are trying their very best to understand and to hold the responsibility for sharing the Sufi message for humanity. Murshid said, "It is the voice of your own spirit that must tell you what is the Sufi message. And once your heart is touched by the message, all you will say is the message. It need not be in any book. What you say will be the Sufi message. Therefore, though we are beginning and it is a humble beginning, and it is in a small way, and yet never be unconscious of the living life of the spirit of the message. Cherish it, maintain it, rear it, water it, raise it high, and continue to spread it. For God has destined us all to serve his divine cause. There's one more passage along those lines. I hope you have the patience for it. We've been here for a while now. Here it is, also from the addresses to Cherags, but from a different section. I hope you can hear the birds. They're dancing together in the sky right now. If it were a human enterprise, there could have been a doubt whether it will be accomplished or not. It must be accomplished, and it will be accomplished. Only those of us who are privileged to serve the cause may just as well find an easier way, a better way, rather than strike a way of difficulty. Greatness is in humility. Wisdom is in modesty. Success in sacrifice. Truth is in silence. Therefore, the best way of doing the work is to do all we can, do it thoroughly, do it wholeheartedly, and do it quietly. One of my favorite sayings recently is, get to work. I say it to myself, I say it to my car, I say it to the washing machine when I start the washing machine. I say, get to work. I do it when I turn on the faucet. So, like, whatever it is, that we have these moments of rest and repose so that we can really prepare ourselves, so that we can be effective, so we can be really energized and feel like our purpose is so clear when we re-emerge, that we are inspired and motivated, and that we have the strength and the sustenance to do what is ours to do. Okay, so I'd like to visit in a brief way a whole lot of wazifa practices that you can make a list of these things if they feel useful for you. So first, on the themes of emptying and purifying, and we're going to do just homeopathic doses of these wazifa practices, and we're going to start with astaghfirullah, that is asking for forgiveness, coming back home, coming into an understanding of what is no longer ours, what no longer serves, so that we can just rest fully in the God presence, which is our own true nature. So we'll do 11 recitations of astaghfirullah. Astaghfirullah, 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 astaghfirullah. And just a couple breaths of breathing that in and out. And now, related to astaghfirullah, but with a different energy about it, is subhanallah, subhanallah. And subhanallah is said to be to glorify God, is one of the ways that is most commonly translated. But subhan as a root means to swim, so it's also to swim in God. And this one has more of an energy of water that washes not just over us, but through us, and leaves everything just shining with the glory of God. So we'll do 11 recitations of subhanallah. Subhanallah, 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 Subhanallah. And a couple of breaths of just breathing Subhanallah in and out. And one more in this theme is we'll recite Ya Quddus, Ya Quddus, that Rahima mentioned as part of her sharing earlier, and the associations and connections with the Aramaic and the Hebrew forms of this word. That is the holy, that is, once we come into this place of stillness and the intention of stillness, then we just infuse it with sacred livingness. So Quddus is both empty of associations of the world and filled and strengthened with holy presence. So we'll do 11 recitations of Ya Quddus. Importantly, the beginning sound of Quddus is a Q sound. It's a different letter in Arabic than a K. So it's something that is impressed on your own physical felt reality. So instead of saying K going forward, we say Q coming inward. So we are impressing this energy of the holy, of sacred presence in ourselves. 11 times, Ya Quddus, 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 Ya Quddus. Couple breaths there. And now resting in that stillness and that quality of repose, we'll do Ya Salam, that is peace, that is tranquility, that is the complete ease of our natural state of being. So Salam, we'll say Ya Salam 11 times, just resting in the perfect peace of our own soul. Ya Salam, 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 Ya Salam. And I think we'll do one more for right now, which is the hearer of prayers. That is a quality of listening that is the deepest possible listening. And the beautiful name of God is Mujib. Mujib. And it is said to be the quality of God that hears us and that responds to us, that is like the echoing chamber of God. So whatever it is that we are asking for, listening for, we send that forth and God receives it and responds to it. So there's a beautiful circular quality about this. And because it's the mu at the beginning means that it's our felt experience of this. It's our tangible reality of praying, of knowing that God hears the prayers and responds. And in response, we hear God's response to us. So there's a hollowing out of space so that the sound can echo, the message can echo within our own hearts and our own awareness. Ya Mujib 11 times. Ya Mujib. 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 And as we were hearing all of these beautiful teachings, invitations from each of these beautiful friends, something in what Raqiba said reminded me of this particular prayer in Hebrew that, and it feels important right now, if I can get on my soapbox for a moment, to include the faith traditions and the religious contexts that we so often see as being disharmonious with each other in the world. And one of the great power opportunities, the medicine of being a Cherag, is to invite harmony and understanding and a loving, respectful regard for the religions that are serving humanity, especially when we see incongruence and the splintering and divisions and contention. And we have visited many faith traditions by reference today, but I would like to include specifically this prayer in Hebrew. I'll sing it first in Hebrew and then in English, and then probably come back to the Hebrew again. And we won't do this together. I'll just sing it because there's a power in just hearing and receiving it as well. So I invite you to see if you can just breathe and open your heart to this invitation of really asking heartfully, entirely with our whole beings for the instruction of God, so that we can show up to embody that fully in our lives, the meeting of God's guidance and our desire. Bati b'Megillat Sefer chatuv alai, Bati b'Megillat Sefer chatuv alai, La'asot Ratzotcha Elokai, Chafatzti b'Toratcha mitoch meyai. I have come with my whole life written upon me. I have come with my whole life written upon me, to do your pleasure, my God. My own desire and your Torah are mingled within me. Bati b'Megillat Sefer chatuv alai, Bati b'Megillat Sefer chatuv alai, La'atzot Ratzotcha Elokai, Chafatzti b'Toratcha mitoch meyai. I invite you to say the prayer Nabi with me as closing today. The words are in the chat window for you. A torch in the darkness, a staff during my weakness, a rock in the weariness of life. Thou, my Master, make earth a paradise. Thy thought gives me unearthly joy. Thy light illuminates my life's path. Thy words inspire me with divine wisdom. I follow in thy footsteps, which lead me to the eternal goal. Comforter of the broken-hearted, support of those in need, friend of the lovers of truth. Blessed Master, thou art the prophet of God. Amen. May the blessings of God rest upon you. May God's peace abide with you. May God's presence illuminate your hearts, now and forevermore.